Good evening and welcome to Law Talk, the show that brings the law, the Constitution, and the issues of the day to you each month. Once again, we're very fortunate to have President-elect Donald Trump. Donald, thanks for being on the show. What are we going to talk about tonight?
Well, dobry wieczór. I should say good evening, James. Very happy you brought me back on the show, and I want to thank you for all the previous times we've been on the show. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the Russians are coming. The Russians are coming.
Wait a minute. I saw that movie, and you know what? They weren't that scary.
Well, you know, we got to get organized. We got to get organized. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to talk about. Then we're going to move into a little more esoteric issue of the Electoral College and the theory of how that works.
Okay, we talking about the way that you were elected president.
The way they've been electing presidents since George Washington up to me. And yeah, it's a system where the citizens have a chance to work through the Electoral College to elect the president.
That's going to be a great subject.
And then the final subject is going to be kind of a wacky subject. It's the birthers' rebirth. The birthers are back.
The birthers. Wait a minute.
The birthers are back.
Are we talking about recycling back to
we're recycling
the old days
the
of
old days.
2007 when Hillary brought up the birth certificate?
It's the sheriff from
Arizona. That'd be Sheriff Joe Arpaio. But how are we starting off there?
Okay,
Donald?
first of all, there's been a lot of rumors flying around about how Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, helped me win the election, and that I would have won the election unless Vladimir had hacked the voting booths.
Well, wait a minute. Why would anyone in this country believe that Vladimir Putin of Russia would want you to be elected president over a Alinsky socialite, Hillary Clinton?
Well, I mean, Hillary did have the reset, and so she did get $130 million from Putin for her foundation through Frank Gustra in Canada, which she forgot to report to the IRS.
Oh, that's right. That's that $130 million for the selling off the nation's uranium.
Yeah,
Wasn't that a simple little deal that...
Well, no, it was about 20% of the uranium.
Oh, that's not bad. Only 20% of our... That
uranium.
means we still have 80%.
Yeah, unless we haven't sold it to China. We don't know. But
we don't know what they sold to China.
But then about coincidentally about the same time, Putin took Crimea, annexed Crimea, and coincidentally kind of about the same time he took half of Ukraine. So the 130
Would there be a nod and a wink here that we give you 130 million? Maybe they bought more for that with that 130 million than simply 20% of the uranium.
The Crimean Purchase. But anyway, so that was Hillary. And then you've got my outlook, which is pretty much, you know, I want to expand the nuclear arsenal and I want to expand the military. So if you look at Putin's motive, it's up to the American people to decide which motive is stronger for Putin to help.
Well, why would President Putin want to have somebody that actually would fight them and possibly be opposed to them elected president? This is the million-dollar question nobody seems to want to answer.
Oh, they've got an answer from that. It's because I could be blackmailed by Putin. I could be blackmailed.
Blackmailed.
But my answer to that is that everybody's seen the pictures of Melania, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Very beautiful woman. You're very lucky.
I mean, you know, her ring finger's not longer than her index finger.
Oh, her finger's not longer.
So it's not like I have a lot of embarrassing things to cover up like some other people do. I mean, she didn't have an Adam's apple.
Oh, you mean an Adam's apple?
Yeah, or anything like that.
I mean, that wouldn't be somebody that's currently president.
So, because
wife has an Adam's apple.
And also, I'm a germaphobe, so I'm not going to mess around like that. So I don't think they've got anything to embarrass me anymore, especially more than anyone else. But the thing is, the intelligence community came up with this theory. And what I would say about intelligence is that intelligence is not necessarily intelligence. In other words, spies are paid to trick people and lie to people. That doesn't necessarily make them intelligence, even though they call it intelligence. And I would go to actually a little joke about the KGB, right? So there's an American spy. He goes and wants to turn himself into Moscow to the KGB. And he walks in, he goes, I'm an American spy, I want to turn myself in. And the clerk goes, well, do you have falsified paperwork? And he goes, yeah, of course I have a fake passport.
Excuse me a minute, Donald. I think we have a phone call coming in.
Okay, let's see. Oh, is it Vlad?
I understand that we're getting a call directly from Moscow as we speak.
Okay, Vlad, it's Donald. Donald, it's Donald here. Hey, do you think they're going to be able to pin the hacking on you?
Come to an end.
I think no. I hope no.
Okay, well, that's great news. I'm really relieved to hear that. They're making a big fuss of that over here. Now, I was wondering, just by the way, aren't we going to have poker at your house next month? Isn't that your turn?
All of us, we need cooperation in some areas. We said about it during our talks, yeah, in our meeting.
But Vladimir,
Okay, so anyway, that's great. Just let me know when you know. So that's good. So it's good to hear from Vladimir. He seems like he's got everything under control
Well,
there.
Donald, you don't have any close ties to Vladimir, do you?
Well, like I'm just saying, the Vlad, and so okay. So let me finish on
but
the.
wait a minute, wait. I can't let this go. He knew he's going to be on your show. He obviously knew that you were going to be on my show tonight.
Well, the thing is, we get call-ins all the time. So you never know who's going to call. It's
never know.
Random stuff.
Okay.
So anyway, the guy goes to the thing and he says, "I'm an American spy. I want to turn myself in." They go, "Do you have fake paperwork?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, "Go to room 5." So he goes to room 5 and he says, "I'm an American spy. I want to turn myself into the Kremlin, to the KGB." And they say, "Well, do you have a gun?" And he goes, "Yeah, I have a gun." Go to room 15. So he goes to room 15, says, "I'm an American spy. I have falsified papers. I have a gun, and I want to turn myself in." And they say, "Well, do you have a mission?" And he goes, "Yeah, I've got a mission." They say, "Well, you got to go to room 20." So he goes to room 20 of the KGB and says, "I'm an American spy. I have falsified papers. I have a gun, and I have a mission." And they say, "Well, if you got a mission, why don't you go do your mission? Don't bother people who are trying to work." So there we go. So that's the intelligence agencies. So right now, that's the theory that I'm getting blackmailed because the intelligence agencies say so.
But you realize the one thing you left out was that the intelligence agencies are actually like script writers for movies. Because what they've done is they've watched too many spy movies, and they believe that, oh my God, anything can happen. And so, I have to ask you about that press conference you had today when they're bringing up that 35-page memorandum about how Vladimir does have an inside line on you and is going to blackmail you, and that you've been working deals to subvert America already.
Well, like you said, James Clapper, right? First thing that James Clapper said, it was like, no one knows who hacked the DNC, right? Now, all of a sudden, they know who in a matter of 7 days, right? And the DNC was hacked some time ago, right? And so all of a sudden, they've changed their story. So the credibility of James Clapper is a little suspect. But let's look back a little at some of the other reasons that they think that Putin hacked the DNC. First of all, they said that, the hacking signature, right? There was a certain hacking software that was used. Well, it turns out that's commercially available in Ukraine, right? So even though Ukraine's not exactly Russia, that's like saying someone robs a bank with a Mercedes is German. Anybody could be doing that.
Really?
And so, so that's one thing. The traces left aren't really conclusive. Okay. And then another thing is that. Oh wait, I got to take a call here. Can I take a call?
Go ahead.
Just take me a minute. Just a minute. Sorry about this. Very rude. Добрый вечер. Vlad, yeah, хорошо, Shara. Yeah, нет. Oh, do you need any hacking done?
Yes, actually, I have a couple of clients that have stiffed me on large payments. So I'm wondering if we could find something to make them pay.
Может быть, Vlad, может быть. Нет, я хорошо. Я хочу денег. Конечно. Okay, anyway, we'll get back to you on that. Okay, so that's going to be all taken care of.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Donald.
Okay, до свидания, спокойной ночи. Okay. So anyway, sorry about the interruption.
Oh, no problem.
He just forgot a couple
But
of
I
things.
have to ask.
Okay.
He has your cell phone.
Okay, well, like I said, it's always better to get along
Yeah, but
with
wait
the
a minute.
Russians.
It's better to get along with Russia
Yeah, right.
than to have them as not as a friend, but have them as a foe. Is that what you're trying to say,
Okay,
Donald?
so then the hacking signature, that's all nonsense because you can buy that commercially available.
Right.
And the other thing was that John Podesta was the Democrat they hacked. And now they
Okay,
always start out,
before we
first of all,
get into John Podesta, I think what we ought to do is move on to our next electoral college, because I'm trying to build the basis for the president-elect here tonight.
Okay.
So let me talk about the electoral college briefly, because in this country, there seems to be a complete disconnect of why the Electoral College is used versus why just the popular vote is not used. First, I'm going to start with this. This is a republic. It is not a democracy per se. And when you have a democracy, that's the popular vote. But when you have a republic, it's a vote based on the representation of the people versus a popular vote. And let me tell you how that works.
Well, let me interrupt you there for a minute, because the difference between a democracy and what's also kind of interesting, because the Democrats are Democrats. They're not Democrats, you know. So everyone says, well, the Democratic Party, there's no such thing as a Democratic Party. There's a Democrat Party. Anyway, so,
And once again, a misnomer, and the popular people that have been dumbed down in the public school system don't know that.
well, it's not really a public school system. It's a non registered PAC of the Marxists. But anyway, whatever you want to call it.
Are you talking about the Marxist subversion of the public education?
No, I mean that's the whole thing. But the point is, a republic means that everybody is subject to the same laws. Okay, so that means that no matter who you are, if you're in a republic, the laws apply equally to all the individuals. A democracy is pretty much mob rule. People vote for things. In other words, if you have two wolves and a sheep voting over what are you going to have for lunch, sheep's not going to do good, right? So in a republic, the sheep doesn't get eaten. In a democracy, it's immediately eaten. So that's kind of the difference between a democracy and a republic.
Yeah, well, the reason I want to get a little historic here is the Electoral College was set up in 1787 at the Constitutional Convention. It was done at that time because Madison and Hamilton noticed that you cannot have one city or two cities at that time control who is elected president. At that time, it was Boston and New York. They had the heavy population centers.
Right.
So what they did not want was the heavy population centers to elect a president. So what they did is they went back. It is justified to make it so that every state would have the possibility to be part of the election. And those people in 1787 at the Constitutional Congress made a decision. We want this country to be operated fairly. Now, I'm going to use a comparison. New York and California, put them as Boston and New York of 1787. Right now, you have people crying in those two locations, we're the most people, we should win. No, the exact reason of the Electoral College is one reason, not to be elected from masses that do not know what they're even talking about. In fact, the two words that have been used consistently, and this is by Hamilton, they do not want election with tumult and disorder. And that's what the mob rule is, tumult and disorder.
Well, if you want a true democracy, you have a pirate ship. Everything has to be unanimous. That's a pirate ship. But I would say also...
what happened to the pirates that were not part of the unanimous decision?
They had to walk the
They
plank.
walked the plank.
Yeah.
So we're not doing that today. There's not a modern day plank. So go ahead. I'm sorry, Donald.
But you have another issue with the Electoral College protects against, is that sometimes if you have voter fraud, Electoral College works as a balance to that, because it's a lot easier to do voter fraud in a concentrated area.
Well, of course it is, because what happens is like cities like Chicago.
Right.
You look at Chicago, look at New York, and let's go back to Chicago for a minute. The Daily Machine, which has run Chicago
Yeah,
for...
like I said, the murder rate of 4,000 doesn't
Yeah,
matter because they're going to keep voting.
They're going to keep voting anyway. In fact, and what it is you could have 4,000 people murdered, but you know one thing. Now you can predict what their vote's going to be because you're making it.
Right. And not only that, if you're in a concentrated area, that people can go and vote many times in one day.
Of course they can. You know why? That's why during
vote early, vote often.
Yeah, vote early, vote often.
So I mean, when you have more, more rural districts, it's harder to do that. Plus, everybody knows everybody.
Well, everybody knows everybody, but in the
and
city,
they see a car driving in with a busload of people, they notice it. In a big city, you don't notice.
Well, that's where we're talking about Los Angeles. And in
Right,
fact,
yeah.
Los Angeles had this problem back in 2008
Right.
when they were tracking bus loads
Right.
of people going from one place to another place
Polling
to vote.
place, polling
yeah,
place.
polling place.
Right.
And you know the problem with that is nobody will stop it because of the motor voter law in California, where anyone shows up and they can say, "Hey, I'm Jim Jones. I'm going to vote." And then you go to the next place. I'm Jim Jones. I'm going to vote.
A lot of states, all you need is a pay stub. So you can come into town, hire 10,000 people, give them one pay stub, and that goes in.
And
They've got an
there it
address.
is.
They're voters.
And guess what?
And they can vote 20, 30, 40 times that day.
If you think about this for a minute, there's
there's no
only
ID.
one political party that says they do not want IDs for voting. And,
Well, you know,
and why is that, Donald? You must
Because
have an opinion
racial
on that.
discrimination.
Oh, racial discrimination.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
that's-
some people, okay, so not only are some people not capable of getting an ID, which seems a little insulting to your constituency, but also obviously they don't have thumbs, so they can't give a thumbprint.
They can't give a thumbprint.
So you've got a lot
Wait a
of.
minute.
a
I
lot
think
of-
we need a
you got
thumbprint.
A lot of thumbless people. A lot of thumbless people that can't get an
I
ID.
can't vote. I can't vote.
Yeah,
I
they
can't
can't vote. No
Can't
thumb.
vote.
No thumb.
No thumb. No
So
thumb.
I mean, you figure you've got what 30, 40, 50 million people in the United States who don't have thumbs and can't get an ID.
Well, you
It's
know,
a
the
lot
one
of people.
problem is I know one thing. To ride on an airplane, you need an ID. To buy alcohol, you need to
But
have an ID.
and then you
to
need-
buy cigarettes, you
no,
need
but
an ID.
if you're buying alcohol, you need a thumb too because you drop
You need
the
a thumb
bottle.
because you're well.
Yeah, drop
actually,
the
you
bottle.
want to twist the lid.
Yeah, yeah.
If you don't have a thumb, you
Yeah,
can't twist.
I guess you can get the bottle like
yeah,
this.
you can't. You can't
Yeah.
do anything with that.
So
But
yeah, I mean, the idea that we can't like check everybody is ridiculous. I mean, if they don't have ID, you put a thumbprint up.
Yeah,
What the
but
heck?
see, let's circle that back to Electoral College. With the Electoral College, you eliminate the busloads of illegal voters.
Well, you don't completely. No, but here's another problem. The census could be askew as well, right? If you're not asking for ID when you're to your census, that determines how many Congress people you have, and that determines how many electoral votes that state gets.
Well, you know, the thing about that is, and that's why the Electoral College was set up with the number of legislatures from your state plus 2 for the senators.
Right.
Now, the one trick part of this is the Washington, D.C. can have no more than 3 electors, no matter how many people live there, because they're mandated never to have more than any other state in the union.
Right.
So if the lowest amount is 3, that's all they got. Now, if everyone had 5, 6, they could go up
Right.
based on their number of legislatures. But they're not allowed to do that. So they're stuck with 3. And you know that always votes for one party. But when you talked about this election, you had a simple method started in 1787 that's been a successful, and but for 2 states, I should say, is Maine and Nebraska, where they have proportional voting. They can actually do proportion depending on districts. The rest of the states are completely in tune with the Electoral College. And this is why I will love to debate at any time, any one of our people that watch us, this subject, because
Well,
there is no legitimate answer.
No, but can't you get a? Don't you get a takeover? I mean, was this really for keepsies?
This was for keepsies. Thank
Okay.
God, and thanks, Donald, and thank you for the Electoral College, because our president-elect
Well, let's talk
won
about,
by fair and square.
Let's talk about the popular vote for a minute. Okay, people claim that Hillary got 3 million more votes than I did. Okay, and who knows, because there's no voter ID. So really, that number could be anything.
Right.
I mean, Morgan Stanley looked at small transfers leaving the country, like $600 or $700, $300 or $400 a week, with no bank account and no ID. And they say that it looks like there's about 40 million people in this country doing that. So that's probably 40 million people without papers.
Okay, well,
Okay,
let's
so-
hang on. Speaking about without papers, I think that's a good segue into the birth certificate. And now, Donald, I know you're aware of Sheriff Joe Arpaio in Arizona. He is one of the last honest lawmen going back to the basic days of.
Well, wait a minute, but I'm just saying, if you got a Social Security number from Connecticut,
There we go. Let's start. Yeah, that's interesting. Let's start at the top. Our current president has a Social Security number from Connecticut. He never lived there. His father never lived there. His mother never lived there. Nobody in his family's ever lived there. And funny enough, the person that had that Social Security number prior to him died very young. And so magically he has a Social Security number that belonged to somebody else that died.
no, but is that person who died still voting?
In Connecticut, maybe.
Yeah,
but if
okay.
not, in Chicago.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so let's go on from there. Now, the problem about this, let's go back to the basics. And I know, Donald, you were big in this in the beginning
No,
about
but
the birth certificate.
But I'm just saying, I just want to say that, if you're a birther, that makes you a cis hetero patriarch. And so you got to be careful.
I mean,
there.
wait a minute. If you're a birther, that means you're racist, homophobic, against the environment, and you
Islamophobic.
don't believe in global warming, and you sure as heck don't believe in Sal Alinsky.
You're misogynistic.
Misogynistic. You hate all women. All you do to women is subrogate them. Well, Sheriff Joe, he hired a posse of ex-FBI agents, Adobe Acrobat experts, and investigators to go back, and because it's funny that Eric Holder decided to sue Sheriff Joe when he was talking about the birth certificate.
But when you do the E-Verify on that Connecticut Social Security number, it comes up not
it doesn't come up President Barack Obama.
No, but it comes up that you can't hire that person.
You can't hire that person.
Okay.
You know why? Because it's a bad Social Security number.
And then somebody sued for that in Oregon, and the federal judge beat her badly and hit her for legal fees and just.
Well, that's Oregon.
Yeah, but they really hit her hard.
Yeah.
For asking about that. No discovery. The judge didn't allow any discovery or anything.
Well, wait a minute. That is something that Sheriff Joe brought up. And about 3 weeks ago, Sheriff Joe released the total results of a 5-year investigation that his investigative posse had done, including 2 Adobe Acrobat experts from different parts of the world who worked independently on what was released as the birth certificate from our president. Now, the problem with that birth certificate, not because somebody didn't try to create one, but the real problem is what they put online was the electronic copy. Instead of walking to their copy machine and copying it, they submitted the electronic copy online.
So it could be investigated.
So it could be investigated and taken apart.
And
with
also,
the same techniques they made it.
But aren't there some birth certificates from Hawaii that are very similar to that?
Well,
that there's complete crossovers, like there's 3 or 4 complete crossovers, which happens.
Which sometimes happens, but what doesn't happen in 1963 are there fonts on a birth certificate where the font wasn't invented until the 90s. That's a problem with the birth certificate. That's just a simple problem, let alone the fact electronically you can raise over 3/4 of the information on the birth certificate, and it shows a whitewashed birth certificate that belonged to a gentleman that was born 2 days later.
But some of that stuff's still left on there.
Yeah, but that's left on there. So they took an original birth certificate that belonged to somebody born in the same month and year.
Right.
And then they washed it, like some type of chemical wash, and then they superimposed the electronics through Adobe. They believe it was all done with Adobe. It was
Adobe's a great program.
It's a fantastic program.
Yeah.
In fact, I use it every day. But you know what I don't do? I don't create birth certificates with it. And I sure as heck didn't create my birth certificate with it. But the problem was somebody was in such a hurry.
No, it's not a big deal. You just go talk to the doctor.
Go talk to the doctor. Oh, by the way, the doctor. Oh, yes, the doctor. He doesn't remember anything about it. And then the hospital. They have no records. Oh, funny enough, the only person that certified that.
You can ask his grandma.
His grandma. Oh, by the way, she died unexpectedly after she said he was born in Kenya. But anyway, what the good part here that got Sheriff Joe even more worried is when the woman that certified this as the birth certificate that came from the little drawer in Hawaii died in a plane crash mysteriously.
It's kind of like Ted Stevens.
Yeah, it was like Ted Stevens in Alaska.
The 60th vote.
I mean, yeah, the 60th vote for Obamacare. But anyway, this woman who was on
it's kind of like this guy, the guy that gave the stuff to WikiLeaks. Who was his name? Seth.
Oh, the Democrat.
Seth Rich. Seth Rich.
He died mysteriously.
Yeah, he died mysteriously because he was a Bernie sympathizer. Talked to WikiLeaks and then walking home. Random gang violence. No money taken.
No money taken. No wallet taken. No watch taken. Nothing taken. But he was shot 3 times in the head.
Well,
by accident.
Well, it sounds like a.
You know what? The first time they missed.
It sounds like the Vince Foster hunting accident.
Oh, it's Vince Foster. See, I mean, it just seems like the mysteries and the coincidences are just overwhelming. But anyway, Sheriff Joe came up with the results of his posse. His book is now heading up #1 on not the New York Times bestselling
So
list.
what's Sheriff Joe doing now? He lost the election, didn't he?
Well, that's because the federal government's been suing him ever since
Yeah,
he said
oh,
this.
they've been suing him
by
for a
the
long
way,
time.
it started with Eric Holder, continuing with
Well,
Loretta
Eric
Lynch.
Holder's working for California now.
Oh, by the way, Eric Holder magically was hired by his law firm.
No, but the thing is Eric Holder still doing his show Legally Blind? I wonder if that's still on.
Yeah, it's legally blind except if you're a white policeman. Yeah, we know that one. But anyway, no, with Eric, I didn't want to go too much with Eric Holder, but you have to realize Eric Holder was at the center of the birth certificate as well. His office said, "Oh, we've investigated the birth certificate. It's completely a legitimate document." And well, anyway, so everyone goes, "Well, why are you even talking about this?" Donald, this is one of your subjects, but why did you go silent on it?
Well, the thing about it is that we had bigger issues at that time. And besides, that's over. Obama's over. He had his run. He had 8 years to see if, basically a state-run, state-centrist, government could work if you have central planning. See how central planning works, right?
Yeah.
Now, my argument would be the free market works better than central planning. So we spent 10, 20, 30, 40, how many trillions? I don't know. We're $200 trillion in debt for unfounded liabilities, maybe 250 trillion. If you took everything, every pot and pan and gold and every shirt we had in the United States, we're worth about 50 trillion. So we're really easily underwater for 150 trillion. If we were a regular person trying to get a credit card, it'd be a joke. We don't even know how much our fiat currency is worth. We don't even know if the leverage from the gold in Fort Knox is 1 to 1,000, 1 to 1,000,000, 1 to 10 trillion. We don't even know.
Well, I got to tell you, Donald, I think we're going to have to wrap it up tonight, but I'm going to tell you
But I'm
this.
saying a lot of money's been spent on
I
this
am
state-run
looking
thing.
forward to you, and January 20th, that's coming.
So the free market, we'll see how the free market goes against central planning.
All
We'll see how
right,
it goes.
Donald, thank you so
Okay.
much, Mr. President-elect.
Okay, dos vidania.
Yeah, dos vidania.
Spasiba.
And let Valer, I'd like to see him.
Tavares,
Hey,
Tavares,
don't forget that hacking job way I asked about.
Okay, we'll
I'd
see
really like to be
we'll see
able
what
to
we can do
collect
there.
on those clients.
Okay.
And I'm sure that by accident that we could find everything
Okay.
about them.
Okay, spokojnia noche.
Okay, I'm looking forward. Oh, I guess Vlad's back.
Let me get this.
Good.
Okay, is that a wrap?
That's a wrap.
Okay.
It should have been a wrap.